What's up, guys? How's it going? It's always me, Francesco, and we are back with another episode, with another live stream of the Wine Thursday of Fattoria di Montemaggio. So, as always, I will give a couple of minutes to all the people that want to join us, and I will just start to introduce the today's argument, today's topic, which is the, of course, the orange wine, as we of course said in the post that we made yesterday with the schedule of this live. Of course, this is an argument that, of course, some people, of course, are really I think interested about, because of course there's a lot of mystery when it comes about those kind of orange wine. And so today we want to just, of course, see what of course what kind of products are what kind of product are the orange wine, and of course we will analyze the method we should apply when it comes about the orange wine production, and also a little bit the history, because you know, many people think that this is a very modern kind of product. Actually, it's not. It's a very ancient method of production of wine. And so today, during this live stream, we will just cover all of this different argument, and we will see what kind of idea there's behind this kind of product. So let's start, of course, from the beginning. Of course, macerated white wine, in other words, orange wine. They, of course, are back on the table of us, because, of course, it's something that we started to rediscover, let's say, in the last 3, 4, 5 years. And, of course, this is, again, a very old method. It's an ancient, but also, of course, it's an ancient style, but it also it is a new style at the same time. And of course, the prolonged contact of grape skins, first with the juice, of course, and then with the wine itself, give to us very unusual kind of flavor and colors. And of course, and it's always like a wine that it's made from a white grape variety. So, of course, probably many of you knows already that the color in a wine depends on the contact between skin and juice. So let's take, for example, a red grape variety. If you do not keep in contact skin and juice of a red grape variety, and if you just let ferment the juice itself, you will have a white wine, even if the grapes that you're using are, of course, red grape variety. So if you take a Sangiovese, for example, and you take out immediately the skins, and you just leave the juice fermenting by itself, you will have a white wine. You will have blanc de noir, as the French used to call, of course, those type of wine. So think about Pinot Noir, the real blanc de noir. So they use, of course, Pinot Noir grape to produce champagne. They just simply take out the skins, and they just leave to ferment the juice. They have a white wine. Also, Pinot Noir, it's a red grape variety. When it comes about orange wine, or again, as we said, macerated white wine, we are talking about white grape variety. They just keep in contact the skin and the juice for a longer time. So, of course, the grape skin releases the substances contained in them, of course, the antociani in Italian, and of course, the wine that you will have at the end of the process, it will result in a very complex and very well-structured kind of product. And it will be very different compared to a standard kind of white wine, both in the nose, both in terms of what it will be your perception in terms of mouth. And of course, this is something that, in my opinion, is so interesting because, of course, you will have a product that it does not sound at all like the typical white wine, although it's still made by white grape variety. So again, it's a very ancient it's a very old kind of approach. It's a very old methodology, and it's almost disappeared with the advent of the new cellar machineries, which allows, of course, the immediate elimination of skins. And this tradition is actually still alive in Georgia, which is the cradle of wine, of course, and as well also in Italy, especially in the Italian countryside, of course, of course you find in many Italian region what we call vino contadino, no? As of course many small producers, many farmers, they do this kind of very organic, supernatural kind of wine, very small, familiar kind of production. And most of the time in region like Friuli, Veneto, Liguria, Emilia, they still, I mean, they keep on using this approach, and they produce this kind of macerated white wine. In other words, orange wine. So this is, of course, very interesting. Of course, let's say that most important wineries, they started just recently, or at least in the last 20-25 years, to rediscover those kind of approach. And, we should say that this kind of method, it was born in the 6th millennium before Christ in Georgia. They used to, of course, keep in contact skin and juice of white wine for a longer time, and they used to age and also they used to do the maceration in this kind of very large amphora. So they started this, and again, that's the reason why it's also a very strong tradition when it comes about Georgia, the macerated white wine and the orange wine. So when it comes about, of course, food and wine pairing, for this kind of wine, many people speak a lot about this kind of argument. They, of course, started to try, of course, to confirm many different theories, and they tried, of course, to pair orange wine with several different kind of, just to see, of course, what it was the perfect matching. And at the end, most of the people made this conclusion that this is not a wine that you want to match with food, but you want to have it at the end of a meal. My opinion is that it's not that true. I mean, this is for sure a wine that you want to have at the end of a meal, at the end of a lunch, at the end of a very important dinner. You want probably to have a very well structured kind of wine. You want to have something that it's also pleasant and elegant enough, to also a little bit to clean up your mouth, but it's really also very potent. And so, in my opinion, it's a wine that you can really match with probably Asian cuisine or Japanese cuisine, especially when it comes about those kind of sushi that are spicy, and also in general, like the raw fish or smoked fish. It can really be a thing with this kind of wine. And for example, it can also be a really good alternative for a vegetarian cuisine. A vegetarian, in my opinion, can really find a friend in those kind of orange wine, because of course they can really be very versatile when it comes about a vegetarian recipe. And it can be, for example, really good pairing, really good matching with a very rich soup. Or if you want something more elaborated with a Parmigiano of eggplant, so it can really be a thing. Also, if you don't really appreciate the complexity and the, let's say also the structure, the very potent structure of this kind of wine, you can also probably match with the recipe and in general the cuisine that I told you about. Now, of course, you can also match very important and very potent kind of rosé. So it can really also be an option. But of course, if you have the chance, in my opinion, you should try this kind of matching with this orange wine. So when it comes about the service temperature, never serve this wine cold. Maybe you think, okay, it's a white wine, still white wine, although it's macerated, go for a colder temperature. In my opinion, I mean, you should serve it at controlled temperature, but it should be around 15 degrees Celsius. This is important because you don't want to chill up too much those kind of wine. 15 degrees Celsius, I think it's 59 degrees Fahrenheit. So another thing that I really recommend to people is to open the bottle a little bit sometime before serving the wine to your guests at the table, because of course it really needs to breathe a lot. When it comes about the aging process that you can you can really obtain, that you can really have from those kind of wine, orange wine are suited for a medium long aging time, in particular the ones that are produced with a very long maceration. And in my opinion, it's also very interesting to see many organic producers, many natural wine producers, many biodynamic wine producers approaching, of course, this kind of technique, because it's actually a very, also in my opinion, natural kind of approach, if you want, of production of wine. So, of course, who started the riscoperta of the orange wine? Who was the first the person that we should say started the rediscovery of this kind of style? Well, we should mention that one of the most important character in this story, it is Josko Grafner. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he's a great artisan of Friulan wine, and he established himself as one of the greatest producers of white wine here in Italy. And of course, he started, let's say, this experimentation of the macerated white wine in 1991, during 1991, in the 1991 vintage, sorry. And of course, pardon me, 1996. He started his experiment in 1996 vintage. That it was some kind of disaster in that area in Friuli, and of course they almost have like a total loss of the harvest. And so he decided to experiment a vinification that it was a bit different. So a vinification with prolonged maceration and spontaneous fermentation as well. So the fermentation was completely spontaneous. From that moment, of course, he started, of course, to experiment, and he started to play a little bit with this technique. And he, of course, also had a trip in the 2000 in Georgia, and he, of course, wanted to rediscover the roots of amphora wine. So he started, of course, this kind of research. So it's also incredible to see, I mean, the journey that he has to rediscover this technique, and how much effort he put in this rediscovery, of course. And of course, the turning point, it was probably the 2001 vintage, and it was officially the first vintage of the amphora version of Ribolla Gialla. Again, Ribolla Gialla is probably many of you already know, one of the most well-known grape variety from Friuli. And you know, this is actually a really great moment also to remind you that we have another live stream. You can also see the replay. You can also watch the replay if you want. That it was totally about the different wine region in Italy. So when we were discussing about Friuli during that live stream, I mentioned that they produce an amazing Ribolla Gialla, and I also told you that their cuisine is mainly based on pork. They use a lot of pork for their cuisine, and I would like to say that orange wine are really great with pork. So if you want, you can also try the traditional method of approach. So try orange wine that are coming from a specific region, like again Friuli, or maybe Veneto, or maybe Emilia, or maybe Liguria again, or maybe Georgia, and you should try to match them with their traditional food from that specific region. That can also be an option if you do not want to experiment. And anyway, this of course, going back to this wine producer, this Josko Grabner, he was basically, let's say, the first that made this rediscovery in modern time, of course. And of course, we should also now talk about what kind of characteristic. We said, of course, they're very well structured kind of white wine, but we should, let's say, mention what kind of characteristic you can find in those kind of wines. So I would like to say that this is, of course, this is a method. This is a method and approach that will, of course, give you a totally different kind of vision, a totally different kind of point of view. That, in my opinion, it's also a little bit unexpected sometimes. And of course, the wine are very unusual and unique. And every bottle, each single bottle, it sounds like very, 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 very unique and very different. In general, I think that this is something that, of course, it's true for every wine. But again, in particular for orange wine, you always find something that it's really, again, unusual. I would like to underline the word unusual. And again, this is just, of course, another thing that the white grapes can offer to you if you use another approach. So I think that, in my opinion, of course, those kind of wine are also wine that can give you those kind of beautiful aromas of orange or apricot, or toasted kind of aroma, or sometimes even nuts. And they're really, really pleasantly, at least from my point of view. But of course, not all the people really like those kind of wine. Also, some kind of people moved, some critics to this kind of product, because they think that of course this kind of wine tends to be a wine that lost a little bit the characteristic of the grape that they use to produce them. For example, if you use, I don't know, Trebbiano to produce an orange wine, or Chardonnay, anyway, everything, all the aromas moves toward a register that is sometimes a bit repetitive. And of course, let's say the fruit that bounce between like apricot and again orange peel, or sometimes like honey, or sometimes beeswax. So they have this kind of like very repetitive kind of like pattern in terms of aroma. But again, this is just an opinion of few people. In my opinion, you have a pretty different and pretty unique kind of product, and so it's always like nice to, of course, to perceive them. Sorry, to taste those kind of wine and perceive those kind of aromas, those kind of complexity. And also, in my opinion, I think those kind of wine can let you appreciate also a lot the work of the winemaker. Because, you know, it's true, you lose probably a little bit of the primary characteristic, the primary notes, the characteristic of the grapes you use. But of course, all of the other components that came out from your in your wine are totally dependent on the approach you had in, of course, the cellar. So both during fermentation and maceration, and also during the aging time. So the secondary notes and the tertiary notes, for the people that don't know that, we can, let's say, categorize the aroma in the wine with primary notes, which are the aromas that depends on the grape variety, secondary notes that depends on fermentation time, and tertiary notes that depends on the aging time. So secondary notes and tertiary notes came out a little bit more. They're more pronounced here. it's true, you lose a little bit the primary characteristic of the grape you use to produce this kind of wine. But again, the sensibility and the, let's say also the method, the approach that the winemaker wanted to use, it's more evident in those kind of wine. It's more clear, of course. And in my opinion, it's really, really interesting again to see. It's true that maybe the aromatic pattern it's a little bit repetitive. And again, as we said, apricot, orange peel, honey, beeswax, and sometimes toasted aroma or nuts. But again, the general complexity and the structure in general are anyway unique, in my opinion, because of course it can let you really appreciate the approach of the winemaker. So this is very, in my opinion, this is really, really interesting to try and to, of course, to understand again how much important is also the approach you have inside the cellar, because it will take your wine in a direction or in another. As we said many times, you know, when we talk about wine, we should consider so many aspects. We should consider, of course, the grape variety. We should consider the, of course, the climate of the region that we are talking about. We should consider the geological composition of that specific region. So the soil, the geological, the geology of the soil of that specific region. We should consider also the topography of the vineyard that we are talking about. So if you pick grapes in a specific vineyard that has a particular topography, it will be different from another one that has a different topography. And also again, we should consider the style again of the winemaker. So the decision that a cellarman or for example, or an enologist makes during the evolution of the wine, during the process of production of the wine. We have a comment. Matteo says hi. Ciao Matteo. Hope you're doing fine. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for the comment, and thank you so much for joining us even today. Thank you. So of course, again, this argument was really interesting for me. It was really also funny for me to, of course, preparing this live stream, because of course it was a good chance for me to learn also something new. And you know, it's not so typical from Tuscany. So I also tried to find an orange wine from here. I didn't find any kind of, let's say, bigger name. I just tasted wine just produced from a very small farm, and it's not even on the market and so on. But it was really interesting to see how it was. The perception and again let's say the palate and nose aromas and so on. So it was really a great chance for me to learn something new. So I suggest you to try, if you have the chance, also this kind of wine. Again, if you want, you can match them both with the traditional food of that specific region of where the wine is produced, or again Asian cuisine, Japanese cuisine, or vegetarian food as well. So for today, it's everything. I hope, of course, you had a great time with me. I had so much fun discussing about this argument. Thank you so much to all of you, of course, for joining us. If you have questions, just write me a comment. If you want to suggest another argument, another topic for the next live stream, of course you can do. I would like also to tell you that probably you already know, but next week we will have Valeria Zavarnikova, which is the owner of Montemaggio. We will do a little Q&A, so if you want to ask her, of course, if you want to ask some kind of question to her, you can just write a comment here on the replay of this live stream, or if you want, you can ask to join the Facebook group, and you can also, there's a post that it was dedicated to this argument. You can write down the question you have for her on the comment section of that post. So again, thank you so much. And again, if you have questions, let me know. I would like so much to receive question and suggestion from all of you. Again, thank you so much, and bye. See you next time. Peace.